Hello there, it's Silverly B here, and today I bring you this tutorial on how to make this very simple little farm, and this is what we're gonna be doing today. This tutorial in particular is about doing the tile and the plotland where we're gonna have the farm. On our next tutorial, we're going to be seeing how to make this farm with isometric tiles. And on the third and final tutorial, we'll see how to use scriptable objects and how to load these resources into Unity. So let's begin. For starters, we have here a very simple 2D project that we've created in Unity. The first thing we're going to do is create a sprites folder. So let's go to create folder and name it sprites. Very simple. The first thing we need to do is to import the sprites in this project. The sprites are available down in this description link below. It's on GitHub, and you also have the access to the code used here. So let's begin. Go to import new asset and choose the items. Now that we've imported the items, we need to adjust the sprites to the project. The pixels per unit is going to be 198, and the sprite mode is going to be multiple. And I like to adjust this to point no filter, even though the sprite is very big, so it's 1920 by 1920. I still prefer to go with point no filter. I think it's maybe foolish of me because it's so big it doesn't matter, but I do prefer. I'm gonna hit apply. And I'll go to the sprite editor in order to edit the sprites. So what we have to do is we're going to slice automatic. The pivot is going to be on the bottom. We can then hit slice, and we gotta adjust a few things. First, we can change the pivot of the bottomland to center. It's important though that the plant sprites remain pivoted to the bottom, because they'll all be growing from there, and that's going to guarantee that they don't lose their position when the plant state changes. And then we can make the same changes to the icons as well. Now, another thing we can do, this is not necessary, but I prefer, is to name the sprites accordingly. So this is going to be corn 0. This is going to be corn 1. This is just to make it easier for us. It's not necessary. If you'd like to skip this step, you can go ahead and skip it. Now that we've finished it, we can hit apply, and all the sprites will be here. The first thing we gotta do is to start with the farmland, where we're gonna plant all these crops. And let's begin by dragging and dropping this farm item. We're gonna hit reset, it's transformed, and we're gonna name it plot. Okay, so here we have a plot of land. We're also gonna change the color of the camera because I think it's better if it's another color, maybe a darker one. I like this shade. You can choose whatever suits you. And so now that we've chosen the color, let's work on this plot of land. What's going to happen? We're going to have a little plant that is going to be, surprise, surprise, planted on this plot of land. And it's going to be like tall or maybe short. It's going to grow on it until you can harvest it. And in order to begin this cycle, we're going to start by making the scripts folder where we're going to store our scripts. And let's begin making the plot manager. Create C# script, and we're going to go with plot manager. This will be managing the plot of land. Let's create it. Let's open it on Visual Studio. So here we have a plot manager. We're going to start just by having a onMouseDown event, where we check for the player's click on this plot of land. So we're gonna have debug.log clicked. Very simple. If we run this right now, you're gonna realize it's not working very well. Well, first because we haven't got the script on this plot. Now here we can see the plot manager, but it doesn't work. Why? Because as of now, this plot of land does not have a collider, and a collider is going to be what's checking for the click. So let's add a collider. I'm gonna go with a polygon collider, but here you can see that it has 73 points, and it looks a bit janky because it's getting all these points. For instance, here it could be just a straight line and it's going in for all these vertices, and it's not necessary. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna rewrite these points. We're gonna say it's 6 points that we need in order to capture this whole collider. We're gonna start with 0, which is here. We want to get it here, and we're gonna adjust it. I think it's 1.5. Let's see. No, it's 1.4. No, 1.3, 1.25. I think it's good. 1.25 is looking good. And here we're gonna get this point. It's going to be on the X 1.82. Okay, 1.8, 1.66. Yeah, it's going to be 1.66 with 0.4. It's looking good, this line. And now that we've discovered this and this point, we can start by just mirroring all these other points on the X or the Y axis. So for element 2, we're going to have the same X, but mirrored Y, so it's going to be minus 0.4. And here we're going to mirror this one, it's going to be 0 and minus 1.25. On the element 4, we're going to mirror this point on the X axis, so it's going to be minus 1.66 with minus 0.4. You get the gist. So here it's going to be minus 1.66 with 0.4. Now that we have a collider here, we can test this out and check to see if it's working. Here you can see the message. So it's finally working because we have the collider. Now, one of the ways this is going to work is it's going to plant something if it's not planted, or harvest the crop if it's planted and if it's mature. So what we need to do here is we're gonna head over to the plot manager script, and on here we're gonna have a variable bool is planted false. It's gonna start false because the plot is gonna start bare, and maybe you plant it later. And what we need now is also an object that is going to represent the plant. So we have a public game object plant, and here this plant, we're going to set it active when we plant it, we're going to set it inactive when we harvest it. So let's go over here. We're going to say if it's planted, then what we need to do is we need to harvest. We're going to separate this harvest in a new function. We can call it harvest here, and let's create it here. Here we go. We're also going to need a void plant. Here we go. So what we're going to do is just say debug.log harvested. And we're also going to set the object of the plant inactive. So plant dot set active equals false. And another thing is it's planted is also gonna be false, because we just harvested it, so it's not planted anymore. So here we have harvested, and here we have plant. Here we go. On here, we're gonna just do the same, except we're gonna replace harvested with planted, and we're gonna replace false with true. So let's save it and test this out on Unity. We hit play, and when you, oh sorry, I haven't set the game object here. We're gonna set this order to 1, and we're gonna set this sprite to this corn to be a very pretty corn. We're gonna change the name to plant. Okay, so here we have the corn, and we just need to reference this game object here. Let's hit play and check this out. Oh, sorry, we should start like this. Okay. Wait a second. Here. Okay, great. Let's go. You hit here, plant, harvest, and if we look over here, there's clicked, there's planted, there is harvested. Now what we need to do is, we're just planting a full-grown corn crop. What we need to do is, we need this corn to go through these stages. In order for the corn to go through these stages, we need a reference to these sprites, and we need to change this plant sprite. So in order to do that, we're gonna go back to the code, and we're gonna ask for the public sprite, and we're gonna ask for the plant stages. These are gonna be the sprites for the plant stages. And we're also gonna keep an int that is gonna be plant stage. Plant stage is gonna start with 0. Gonna be in which stage the plant is in. We're also gonna keep, instead of a game object, we're gonna keep a sprite renderer here. And over here, we're gonna keep a timer in order to keep time of the plant stage. First, we're gonna need a float, time between stages. We're gonna set it to 2f, so 2 seconds per stage. And here we're gonna have to keep a timer. Okay, so here instead of plant set active, we're gonna say plant dot game object dot set active, because plant is now a sprite render and is not an object anymore. So what we're gonna have is, when we plant, we need to set is planted to true. We need to set the stage, plant stage, to 0. And we need to update the plant appearance. In order to do so, I'm gonna create a new function, void update plant. I'm doing this here because I know that later down the line, it's gonna get more complex than it is now. So I'm making this a separate function. So update plant is going to be plant.sprite equals to plant stage, just plant stage. Whenever we plant, we want to update the plant. Okay, so another thing we need to do is we need to set the timer to the time between stages and start counting it. So what we need to do is timer equals time between stages. And here we're gonna keep lowering the time, minus equals time dot delta time. And if timer is lower than 0, well, first let's check if it's planted, because if it's not, then we aren't going to need all this. So if it's planted, so if there is a plant, in our garden. Then we're going to count the time, and we're going to say if timer is less than 0 and it's not on the last stage. So how do we know what the last stage is? We just need to say that plant stage is less or equal to plant stages dot length minus 1. This gives us that plant stage is lower than the last plant stage. So what we gotta do here is we're gonna set timer equals to time between stages, and we're gonna say stage, plant stage, gonna get bigger, and we're gonna update the plant. This should work. Let's head back to Unity and adjust it. So here we have this plot. We're asking for the plant stages, which is gonna be this. Let's lock this on the inspector and select and drag and drop here. Now you can see that the plant is mismatching. This is because we changed from game objects to sprite render. We just need to drag and drop it here again, and it should work. So let's check this. And now we have a corn that's growing beautifully, and we have an index out of range error. We just need to fix one little thing. It's not less or equal, it's less. Let's save this and head back over to Unity. Let's play again. Start. And this should work with no errors. And it does. And it does. This is great. We have a corn, but we also need to see that whenever we click, it harvests. And we don't want that. We just want it to harvest on the last step. And we know how to get to the last step. Let's do it again. We just need this information, and we need to say here that harvest can only occur when the plant is ripe. So here, what we need to do is if plant stage, then here we go. Okay, so if it's planted, it's going to try to harvest it. We're going to need to equal here. And if it's on the last stage, it can harvest. Otherwise, it won't harvest. Let's save. Let's delete this. We don't need it anymore. It's just littering our error log. So let's save. Let's check this out. Back on Unity. Here we go. We try to click. It's not working. It doesn't do anything. When it's the last stage, let's check this out. It works. Now, what we need to check is we can plant this little corn and it's gonna grow. And when we click over here on top of it, it is not going to respond. This happens because, well, the plot has a collider here, as we can see. The plot has a collider, but the plant has no collider. And the plot, even if the plant had a collider, it wouldn't know what to do with it. It wouldn't have used it to sense the click. And to make the plot sense the click on the plant's collider, what we need to do is, first, let's go here to the plot and add a component, a rigid body 2D. It's not going to be dynamic or kinematic because it's not going to move. So since it's not moving, it's static. And we can leave it just like that. If we go over here and add a collider, we can see that when we click, we can try and click here. You might not be seeing it because it makes no difference. But even when it's small, the plant still has this very large collider. So here, when we click, it's easier to see if we adjust this to a smaller corn plant. I'm gonna reset the collider, and you can see here that it's very small. And even when the plant's gonna get bigger, the collider is gonna stay small. So when I click here, it doesn't work. Why is this happening? Because Unity's collider doesn't adjust in real time, but in order to fix this, because we need the collider to be adjusted with the plant size, we're gonna use the update plant method. And we're gonna keep here a box collider 2D that we're gonna call plant collider. This is gonna be a reference to the plant collider. And over here, instead of having a public sprite render for the plant, we can say that the plant equals to transform.getChild0, and we're gonna get component, and it's gonna be sprite renderer. This way, we don't even need to set this up. The game will do it for us. And the plant collider is gonna be the same thing, but instead of a sprite renderer, we're gonna go with a box collider. Okay, we're doing great so far. What we need now is an equation that is gonna adjust the collider size to the sprite size. And in order to do that, we're gonna go plant collider dot size equals to plant sprite dot bounds dot size. This should do. But the thing is, the plant collider will be off-centered because we have a sprite that is centered on the bottom. So in order to adjust this collider size, what we need to do is change the offset of the collider. So we're gonna go with plant collider dot offset is gonna be equal to a new vector 2. This means 2 dimensions. And since the offset is gonna be felt on the y-axis, we're gonna go with 0 for the x-axis, and we're gonna go with plant size dot y. This means vertical size divided by 2. Okay, this should work. Let's check this out to see if it's working correctly. I'll hit play. Yeah, we're not working correctly. Oh no, sorry. I actually forgot that it's not plant.size, it's plant.bounds divided by 2. If we go back to the game, you can hit start and check to see, and it seems like it's working correctly. So there we go. We can plant it and we can harvest it even if we click up here. This is great. That was it for today, and that was it for this tutorial. And if you'd like to keep on watching these tutorials, the next one is gonna be about making this tile board where we're gonna set the farm, and it's gonna be made out of these tiny plot lands that we've just created today. And on the third video, we're gonna see how to make all kinds of plants. So please stick around and click on the video. If it's already out, you can watch it right now. That was it, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. This helps a lot. Thank you. Bye.